Hello everybody, welcome along. My name is Benjamin Bloom. This is the Benjamin Bloom Football Channel. In glorious sunshine here. It's the end of the season. We are getting through the season reviews. I believe there's only 2 more to go after this. Hold on, fans of Bristol City and Huddersfield. We will get there, but today we are talking about Birmingham City and their season in 2020-21. You can see a few of the key protagonists, 2 in particular, up on the screen there. Never a dull moment, really, at Birmingham. We won't go too far back into things, but obviously went into last season with Gary Monk having gone and Gary Monk's assistant taking over, essentially Pep Clotet. That never works out well, does it? We've seen another couple of examples of that with Jason Tindall and Dean Holden not lasting very, very long. So at the back end of last season, with Birmingham seemingly safe enough, Trillian basically pull the plug and on the season, that is, and say, okay, we're done. And out go Pep Clotet and a whole load of players. You can see there, 8th of July. So before the season actually ends, Clotet goes out. And I remember a few of the final games of that season. Check the subs bench because it's either not full or full of youth players, basically. So it was very much a hard reset was going to be obvious in the summer. And you can see that is that's the whole summer. We're not going back as far as July, but I'll read from the bottom up. All of these players are going to be funneled out. Some Clotet players, some Gary Monk players. Look, Chiesa, Medina on a loan, Villabla on a loan. Harding's going to go out to Rotherham permanently. Trueman on a loan, Bailey, Seddon, and then the free transfers. Weaver, Stockdale off the wage bill. That had been a big one over a few years. Mrabti, Magoma, Grounds, and good money for Alvaro Jimenez. And then, of course, the saviour, Jude Bellingham, was sold at the back end of last season. Where would Birmingham be without that particular chunk of money? Perhaps some people will argue in the comments they haven't actually particularly spent it well in terms of transfers, but a very, very much needed saleable asset in Jude Bellingham, who's in the Euro squad and pulling up trees in the Champions League for Dortmund. So Dortmund would argue and Birmingham would argue worth every penny of that 20 million as usual. If you want to be pedantic about transfer fees, these are transfer marks numbers for the fees. And if you happen to have in your possession a deal memorandum from Birmingham and Dortmund, then please feel free to write transfer marked a strongly worded letter, put it that way. But the Bellingham money, vital. And just this big clear out. Who were they clearing out for? Well, it was Aitor Karanka, wasn't it? Birmingham City confirmed Spaniard as new head coach. 46-year-old Karanka coming in. Remember, previously promoted with Borough. Championship owners love a manager who's had a previous promotion. However long ago it is. Not that long in Karanka's case. And remember Forest, going into that December in the 18-19 season, were in the top 2, and then there was the fallout there. So it's easy to sit here with hindsight and say a manager with a history of grumpiness. Remember, he resigned and walked out of Borough and then come back at the back end of that season. Fell out in Forest with Marianakis. Okay, look, that's on an equal level with Birmingham for sort of chaos, that ownership there. But with hindsight, it did look like a somewhat combustible pairing, didn't it? Trillian, Birmingham and Karanka. Remember, Karanka was sat next to Jose Mourinho on the bench at Real Madrid when Mourinho maybe was at his best, but was certainly at his most spiky and antagonistic going at Pep Guardiola. That was the time Karanka was there. That's Karanka's schooling. Put it that way. Does the apple fall too far from the tree? You tell me in the comments. Karanka in. And backed to a certain extent, certainly you would think salary-wise, and a large number of players coming. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. That sounds like a football team, doesn't it? But we mentioned so often it's very, very rare that a club has a huge amount of players come in and immediately, between that and the next window, everything gels and you get a team out. Sometimes it happens. It's more rarer than not, let's just say. But they had the exodus. Let's look at who he brought in. We'll go from the bottom up. Mikel San Jose, the sort of Spanish link there. Clark Salter, he'd been there before, hadn't he? On loan. Riley McGree on loan from the US market. Adam Clayton, who he'd worked with obviously before at Borough. Prieto, is going to be gazumped by another keeper. Sanchez, well, that turned out to be a pretty good one, didn't it? John Terrell, who, another sort of Spanishy link. He'd been on loan at Birmingham before, hadn't he? George Friend, who, again, was from Borough, who he'd had before. And then, a bit of cash splashed. Jonathan Lako, 21 years old from West Brom. Always this thought that there's a player there, but no one's managed to get a tune out of him yet, have they, in his career? All potential. Neil Etheridge and Transfermarkt reporting £2 million spent on the goalkeeper there. That feels like a lot for a keeper, doesn't it? But no, you tell me. Scott Hogan, again, Transfermarkt reporting £2.5 million. He'd been a £9 million player going to Aston Villa, and he'd been on loan at Birmingham and done pretty well the previous season with Pep Clotet, up front with Lukas Jutkovic. So there's the players coming in, a lot of them. How many and how effective they were, you can tell me in the comments, can't you? So there are the first 17 games under Aitor Karanka, the pragmatic Aitor Karanka, and I've titled that slide, few defeats, few goals, few wins. It is very, very pragmatic, isn't it? One of the best defensive records in the league. I think I checked. Maybe Borough and Brentford better, but nobody else. So the defensive side of it, and I'm getting deja vu after talking about Forest under Houghton yesterday. The defensive side working. The attacking side not working because 14 goals in 17 games. Arguably, you're going into every game with less than a goal per game. You need one goal in the game to win the game. Ergo, it's hard to be a winning football team. You need to be very tight at the other end and really have good game management to be upwardly mobile. But they do get 5 wins in 17. That's not the greatest. But only 5 defeats in the 17. Well, that's okay. 7 draws. Look at some of the results. Look, 0-0, 1-1, 1-1, 1-0 home defeat, 1-0 away defeat, 0-0. It is very Karanka, isn't it? And then into November there with Coventry and Luton, 0-0, 1-1, 0-0. I suppose there's tight wins. All of the wins are by 1 goal, aren't they? Against Brentford on the opening day. Caught them cold, didn't they? And against Huddersfield, against Preston, Bristol City, and Reading. That was a bit of a surprise one, wasn't it? So it's very Karanka, isn't it? It's very pragmatic. And we always talk about on the channel about that knife edge of pragmatic managers. It doesn't take too much of a slip. Fine margin is always the term used, isn't it? For that few wins, few goals. And we talk about few goals at either end and few defeats. For that to turn into fewer goals at your end equals fewer wins and more defeats. It slips off quite quickly. Whilst it's finely tuned and, you're getting those tight wins, great, but there's not much margin for error with that style, is there? In January, and this is quite odd really, I'm going to drop another £2 million on striker Sam Cosgrove. there from Aberdeen, barely gets on the pitch. So it feels like you take those 3 signings, which we think about 6 million between them for Etheridge and Hogan and Cosgrove, in COVID championship times. That's a hell of a lot of money going in on those 3 players. Raheem Harper comes in on loan. Simmons undisclosed from Man City. Valerie on loan. Seddon returns. Halilovic as well. So again, another 6 players. Some, as I say, more utilised than others. Halilovic, I guess, they're trying to make this year's Jeremy Bella, which was a great free signing, wasn't it, last season? But again, it's still churning players coming and going, aren't they? There's a few going out. David Davis on a free. Connell Truman, another loan. Crowley on a loan to Hull. I don't know if that's anything to do with the John Terrell deal. Interesting one there. Kieftenbeld out and popular immediately at Millwall. Dutch Mike. So more movement, and when you look at these transfer windows, you want to kind of see a team being built. You want to see, oh, well, they needed a fullback at this point, so that top signing on there is a fullback, and he's then going to do 2-3 seasons there, or, you know, what have you. And I don't know if we're seeing that. Oh, we're seeing a lot of players, but I don't know where the lineage is going for this. So there we go. And then a horrible run. And you can see I've isolated the table for those 19 games between the 12th of December and 13th of March. Birmingham, for a 19-game sample, which is just shy of half a season, were the worst team in the division. The home record, utterly shocking. 13 points in those 19 games is not only... Look, if it was 18 points in 19 games, if it was less than a point per game, we'd be arguing its relegation form. But it's much lower than that. It's sort of 2/3 of a point per game. 3 wins in 19. And we mentioned the fine margins. Well, it's not even very fine. Look, 4-12 against 31 in those games. And you can see there, once that defence starts to go, look at those first few games. 3 shipped against Cardiff, 4 against Borough, and then 4 against Derby in that run of 5 defeats out of 6. You get that odd away win at Borough. There is an argument Borough were just coming back from the big COVID outbreak there against that. And that's the only win in probably, if I count them up, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, so that's 1 win in 13. In fact, there's only 6 points in those first 13. Couple of, well, very helpful results, actually, especially the one against Sheffield Wednesday, given Wednesday were down the bottom there. Strange one against QPR, who were very good for the second half of the season. But, yeah, just a horrible run. You can see the home form goes, the dressing room goes, and the defence goes all at once. And we know how this is going to pan out. And, yes, okay, we've Mr. Hindsight here. But, yeah, it's not worked out, has it? And out goes Aitor Karanka, in charge of the Blues for less than 8 months. And in comes Lee Bowyer, who had obviously been in the Championship the previous season with Charlton. Former Birmingham player. Charlton relegated, I think, with 49 points as well. So... wrong place, wrong time. Bowyer, he'd got them promoted out of League One. And dare I say, was considering it was Roland de Châtelet, who was the owner at Charlton, you would argue, an owner rather good at working, how can I phrase this nicely, in a certain type of environment. So Bowyer comes in with Birmingham. You can see there, 3 points clear of the Championship relegation zone. And I remember doing all these videos coming back from that last international break. It was very much Rotherham versus Birmingham. And remember, Rotherham had that crazy, they had 4 games in hand, and they were playing Coventry and Birmingham at home. And we all racked it up, and we're sitting there saying, look, Birmingham are in trouble here. They really are. Let's see what happens. The polar opposite of that. Now, I've put safety surge there, and you can see over the period, which I've isolated, which is March 17th to the 24th of April. Yes, they play one more game than Watford did in that time. But Birmingham go from the worst team in the league over a 19-game sample to the second best team in the league over an 8-game sample. Now, I'm very prickly about the term new manager bound. So I prefer other words to be used there because it's very, very clear what's happening here. That the players previously, exactly the same players. Yes, I understand some of them weren't used, particularly Lukas Jutkovic, and Bowyer made it very, very plain that that was going to be the tactic. But it does feel like, I mean, it's a spectacular regression to the mean, isn't it, to get to ultimately where Birmingham did. But it does really feel like Bowyer came in, united the dressing room. Basically, my perception is said to the players, look, this is what we need to do short term. Let's get Jutkovic in the team. Let's play tight. Let's play intense. We're going to run more. We're going to put the ball in the opponent's box. If it's Mark Roberts hurling throws in and set plays coming in, we're going to make the defenders defend. We're going to be hard to play against. And that will be what ultimately we need to do to survive. And he was dead right, wasn't he? And look at the home form as well. Immediately wins against Reading and Swansea as well. That was a Swansea slip, but still. And then they beat Stoke as well. So 9 points out of 9 at home. They get a draw away from Birmingham. And Lee Bowyer argues that it was he that ultimately forced Swansea to change from a back three to a back four and Birmingham to change from a back four to a back three. They both changed the systems after not being able to score against Birmingham. And then look, another 3 wins in 4. And key. Look at that, Sunday, 18th of April. They go to Rotherham and win. And then they go to Derby. They went behind in that and won. So look, when the chips were down and it really, really mattered after Bowyer came in, Birmingham were excellent, weren't they? And you can see down there, 17 points in 8 games. So they go from abject relegation form to promotion form in the process of changing a manager. You can see the last 2 games, they're already safe. And yeah, a bit harrowing there. 9 goals conceded in the last 2. And certainly a lot of youngsters came in and played in those games with the job already done. I don't know whether that was Bowyer kind of cleverly signalling to the owners, look, this is don't now give me no players in the summer and expect me to be scoring 17 points every 8 games and winning promotion like that next season. There's still a lot of work to do, but I mean, you can argue it's the right managerial change, or you can go the opposite way and argue it was the wrong managerial hire in the first place. Either way, a very straightforward tale of one manager not working out and a new one coming in, simplifying and very much fixing it toward the end of the season. There's the final table, which leaves Birmingham in 18th with a heinous goals scored there of 37. So big problems there. For the majority of the season until Bowyer came, I guess. Not that they were massively free scoring then even. Only Derby, from my quick scan, scored fewer goals than Birmingham last season, but ultimately safe by a long way, really. 9 points above safety, and that's considering as well they were able to ease up and freewheel the last 2 games, and they lost both, so it could have been mid-50s on the points had they picked up 1 win from those last 2. Let's go to the summary. So, summer chaos, Clotet out, squad clearance. Never a good start, but it's a hard reset, isn't it? So, you can argue that they did it ahead of a new manager coming in. So, yes, it's not ideal, changing manager, loads of players cleared out, therefore loads needed to come in. But if you're going to do it ahead of a new manager coming in. let the new manager do it and do it in the close season. So, look, we're hard on Trillian sometimes on the channel, so let's give him a bit of a pass in that regard, but not ideal again. Bellingham money in, absolutely vital. We think 20 million quid. There may be some add-ons in the future as well. And in comes Karanka, which in hindsight turned out to be the wrong decision. Whether it was the wrong mix between him and the ownership, him and the players, him and everyone, it didn't work out, did it? And that could be Karanka and the championship done. Who knows? And whether he'll go back to assistant work or whether he'll try a different league. But yeah, shame for him. But it didn't work out. Remember, few defeats, few goals, few wins. Not massively inspiring. If the first sort of third of the season had played out, Birmingham probably would have finished roughly the same place in very, very boring fashion, I think, with not many goals going in at either end and lots of draws and the odd one-goal victory, basically. It didn't turn out that way, though, did it? I've put an odd January. Again, don't know if anyone's going to use Sam Cosgrove at Birmingham or Raheem Harper. It feels like an odd... I don't know who was doing the recruiting, put it that way, in January, because neither manager seemed to particularly use any of the players that came in. Maybe some more than others. I have to check my numbers on that. But certainly the team that Bowyer finished the season with wasn't built on many of those players who came in. Karanka goes south. Yeah, it all goes wrong, doesn't it? The home form goes, the dressing room goes. Karanka goes. Relegation form then, a tail off toward the final games. Bowyer in, simplify, regroup, surge, survive, wasn't it? Get Jutkiewicz in the team. He's been a very good championship player. Get the ball in the box. Make yourself hard to play against. Run a bit more. Long throws. I'm making it sound very simple, but that's what Lee Bowyer ultimately did. And I think, given the spectacular points differential and going from the worst team in the league over 19 games to the second best over the next 8, would probably suggest that the players were not playing for Karanka, whether his tactics were working or not. But superb job by Bowyer over that period. What next is the interesting one. And I mean, it's just not as simple as Bowyer do what he did over those 8 games and it ultimately works. You've got to remember, context is king in this, and Bowyer's coming in and it's very much a short-term mission. Now, you could possibly do that over the long term, but from what I've seen of Bowyer's Charlton particularly, they didn't play that way. They wanted to transition quickly and take chances and flood the box. That was what the Charlton team sort of did, particularly early in the 1920 season, when they won 4 and drew 2 of their first 6 games, didn't they? Were right up the top of the league to start with, and before those big injuries to sort of Lyle Taylor and others whose names I can't remember as we go. So I'm not sure it's that simple. You can't rely on Jutkiewicz year after year after year after year. But for that short term it works. So be very interested to see how Bowyer plays it. For the past couple of seasons, we've seen Che Adams and then Jude Bellingham go. Is there really a big saleable asset at Birmingham? I don't see it working that way. And probably still, there's a bloated squad. There's still going to be Monk, Clotet, Karanka players all in there. And then Bowyer's going to start wanting to add the Bowyer players as well. So it's a very fine balancing act. And I don't want to rain on any Birmingham fans' parade here, but it's not the same thing. The short-term job, get safe, use what you've got, no transfer windows. It doesn't necessarily follow that you can then just do exactly the same thing over a full season. I believe it's a different brief now for Bowyer across a whole season. So I'm interested to see what he does. He certainly did the short-term job absolutely brilliantly, but I wouldn't presume that it will be exactly the same either strategically or in terms of output and points on the board. Hey, maybe he will. Maybe he'll say, look, the championship's straightforward. We're going to play in a straightforward way and we're going to do it well, and that will serve us well. Who knows? We are going to find out. But certainly a very obvious narrative for this season review. Karanka bad, Bowyer good. We'll see what comes. And let's hope that Trillian don't make any more chaos than needs to be at the club for the next season, because we always seem to lose a manager at Birmingham at some point ever since I've been covering this league, and I'm sure Birmingham fans would like just a couple of seasons of stability to try and grow something and make a bit more of a challenge. I've had my say. Now you have yours. Get involved in the comments. As ever, I'll make my end of video proclamation. I cover 30 teams here, so if there's any minutiae that you want to talk about, perhaps as a Birmingham fan, I don't know, a system change, an injury to a player that I may not have mentioned because I have to cover 30 entire seasons and 30 teams, please get it in the comments. Sometimes I hear this type of thing and it's quite blunt. So remember, I'm covering 30 teams. And also remember that sometimes it's good to step out of the bubble, i.e., I had several comments on these videos, the season reviews, that say, yeah, not bad considering you don't support the team. And it's like, sometimes the people who support the team can't see the wood for the trees because they're so ingrained and entrenched and stuck inside the bubble. So perhaps flip that the other way. Sometimes when you're in the bubble, it's good to hear what the outside perception is. And perhaps that type of comment comes across as a little bit patronising, doesn't it? Because certainly I don't know too many fans that look at the whole division, certainly in a way that we do here on the channel. All of that said, I am still eager to hear your comments, particularly if you are a Birmingham City fan, particularly as it pertains to next season. What is Lee Bowyer going to do and how is he going to get on? That is another season review done. Birmingham City, I think we've only got 2 to go. So, yeah, really enjoying getting through these, really enjoying your feedback. We'll stick them all in a lovely, neat playlist when I'm all done. And then I can go and have a sleep for 5 minutes before the UH starts. Thank you for watching. Get involved in the comments. Go and enjoy the sunshine. And it's an over and out from me. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button to see more videos from this channel. Hit the subscribe button and to be notified every time we upload. Ring the bell for those notifications to come through on your device. If you really want to support the channel and me as a content creator, I will be eternally grateful if you head over to the merch store and grab something, or support over on Patreon, patreon.com/Benjamin Bloom. Thank you for your time. Go and watch another video.